If we want to really pursue sustainable development and help make the world a better place, then you have to engage with everybody around you. You have to get everybody on board the bus, if you like. And therefore, you have to be positively influential, talking about it, selling your message and getting collective agreement and buy-in.
Hello and welcome to the latest episode of the Built Environment Marketing Show. And I am your host, Ayo Abbas, marketing consultant and strategist. Today, my interview is a really special one. It's with Tristram Carfrae, who is one of the Deputy Co-Chairs of Arup. Arup is a firm I know really well and I still have many friends there. I worked there full-time from 2006 until 2009 and also more recently as a consultant with the Arup University marketing team. So, in this episode, we look at why Arup invests in marketing. We also touch on why they're taking a broader approach to have a conversation with more of the general public and not just the industry. We talk about the impact of digital and COVID on how they've been going to market. And we also look at how Tristram has taken to LinkedIn to raise his own personal brand and also that of the firm. Oh, and just before we go into the episode, it's worth noting that Arup is an employee-owned trust and they actually refer to their staff as members. Anyway, I'll stop chatting now and let you get on with listening. Bye. Hi, Tristram. Thanks so much for coming on the show. Can you do a quick intro to who you are and I guess your role at Arup globally?
Thanks, Ayo, and thanks very much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. So my name's Tristram Carfrae. I am one of two deputy chairs of Arup globally. I'm a structural engineer by profession and still enjoy designing things. I'm also sit on the Arup Group Board, responsible for strategy and where we're going, with a particular interest in our strategy for being excellent at everything that we do and for using digital tools and new technology as much as possible.
So in terms of kind of being excellent, how can a marketing team or a marketing function be excellent in your eyes?
Well, you see, I think a marketing function, if you like, is measured by its product or its outcomes. And in fact, excellence generally is. So for me, excellence is about our projects actually doing the right thing in the world around us. Being excellent is about delivering sustainable development, about improving the world for people, about, making greater biodiversity, using less carbon, etc. Yeah. And similarly, therefore, a marketing function should be measured by, to what extent and how clearly are those messages getting across.
Fantastic. I love the way you've linked it to the outcomes of the overall business. I think that's definitely the way forward. And in terms of Arup and investing in marketing, can you kind of tell me about I guess why, because Arup has always traditionally invested in marketing and seen it as a valuable part of their operational performance. Now, I guess why, what's your take on why that's always been important to Arup?
Okay, well, actually, I'm going to start by contradicting you, Ayo, if that's all right. Traditionally, and by traditionally, I mean 50 years ago, we didn't actually do much in the way of marketing because the view was that let the projects speak for themselves. Help deliver really special projects that make the world a better place and let them be your ambassadors, if you like. Yeah. So it's really only over the last 20 years that we said, hang on, that doesn't necessarily work very well, and we have to be a bit more explicit. But 20 years ago, our view was that we were marketing to our clients or our future clients or people who might wish to commission us to do work, with maybe a little bit of a view as to marketing towards the critics, the people who commentate on what happens in the built environment. I would say the big difference today is we see that we're actually marketing as a minimum to our future members, the people who might want to come and join us, and perhaps even to the public at large. In other words, there's a concept of having a public brand, which has been quite missing in the whole of the built environment, except perhaps for star architects. Most contractors, consultants, they don't think of themselves as having a public face.
That's a really interesting take, actually. And in terms of having a public face, how is that different? How have you tackled that? Because that's quite a different model to use.
Yeah, and I wouldn't say we have tackled it yet. I think we're discussing it, if you see what I mean. But I think social media, which I suppose is the topic of today, allows you to have a public face without a massive investment, particularly a massive financial investment. You don't have to have the HSBC billboards at every airport in the world. You don't have to take out advertising hoardings, through every city in which you wish to have a public presence. You can now, target the whole world through a very simple medium.
And when you're saying target the whole world, are you talking about in the business context, or you're talking about everybody, society?
I think I'm trying to talk about everybody. I'm not quite sure. You probably know more about this than me, but in theory, social media has no boundaries. It all depends upon which audience you can attract, but it could be the whole world.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very different take, because I think the whole kind of people, it's kind of, especially in what we do, I guess the people are always kind of like, actually, no, you're talking to these particular audiences, and it's probably more the business audience than you are to the general public. But I guess if we're looking at those wider themes that you're discussing, sustainability, biodiversity, it impacts us all. So that's the message we are going to have to get out. And actually, I was at a talk last night talking about net zero, and it's like, if we can't communicate what scope 1, 2, 3 is and get people actually infused about it, and that's everybody, we're never going to solve it.
Absolutely, Ayo. So a part of our current strategy is including being influential. So again, written in our founder's key speech in the 1970s was the idea that we become influential through our work. Yeah. And the change is, no, if we want to really pursue sustainable development and help make the world a better place, then you have to engage with everybody around you. You have to get everybody on board the bus, if you like. Yeah. And therefore, you have to be positively influential, talking about it, selling your message and getting collective agreement and buy-in.
I completely agree. It's a much bigger ask, but actually you'll make a much bigger impact, right?
Exactly.
And in terms of, I guess, tackling, I guess Arup's taken a more of a global approach in terms of how it markets itself these days. And I was wondering how you think that's kind of evolved over the years, and I guess the impact that you're seeing as working in the business.
Yes, this is another very interesting topic to me. This, what you get for your effort. So we started marketing ourselves locally, if you like, and you do it by physical presence. You get out and about, you go to conferences, you go to meetings, you talk about your work, etc. And we moved from that into, as I said, the more digital space. And of course, we developed LinkedIn accounts in every city in which we operated, and we gave messages, and we believed in our local audience, etc. And then we found out that actually it's much more effective to send messages globally, which the local audience can tune into if they wish to or not. But they can also tune into then the messages, that are actually coming from other parts in the world, and we can learn from each other, and we can see a global perspective as well as our local perspective. And simply in terms of, the return on effort, it multiplies up. So we can still tag things with local, geographies, if you like, or cities, and say that they are of particular relevance to that. But it doesn't mean they're irrelevant to everywhere else.
Yeah, that's another big shift as well. And it's really interesting to see how it's being done, actually. And I think some of the professional services firms probably do that global thing. They have been doing it longer than kind of built environment firms, that's for sure. And I guess one of the things you do look after is, or you have an interest in, is around championing digital innovation. How important has kind of digital marketing been, or what you've seen in terms of Arup and how you kind of approach it?
Yeah, well, I think it sort of relates to the earlier response, which is digital marketing gives you this opportunity of, you can get reward that's unrelated to effort. That's why the big tech companies are so successful. You get what's called scale. You put in an idea, but if you can get 1 billion people using it, you get a huge return on that idea. So digital marketing, I think, follows a similar potential path, that if you can get your messaging right and you can get it consistent and you can get a great followership, and you can get activity and commentary and engagement through your digital marketing, then you can grow your audience enormously. And as I say, there's sort of no limit, because the topics of today, decarbonisation, resilience, increasing biodiversity, not straining the planetary limits, the planetary boundaries. These are universal issues. They're not just for built environment, and certainly not just for built environment professionals. They're for the world as a whole.
That's the only way we're going to solve them, that's for sure, or even have any chance. I was going to say, so in terms of digital marketing, one of the reasons that I really wanted to get you on here was actually because I love your LinkedIn posts, which I do.
Thank you.
Especially when I found that actually you did most of them yourself, which I was just like, really? Because no, it's true. Because, and the reason I say that is because quite often when I'm training senior level people or having senior level discussions, they're like, oh, far too busy for LinkedIn, blah, 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 blah. And they don't see any value in it. And I guess my first question is, why do you invest time in LinkedIn yourself personally?
So again, it relates to the earlier question, but it's the other angle of it. Is it an organization like Arup? We have 20,000 members.
Yeah.
And we have a central marketing group, of course, and we have regional marketing groups as well. Now, if we leave it to the marketing people to market us, then they have to go and find the stories. They have to go and talk to the individuals, find out what it is that they need to do. Then they have to write them up and send them out. But there's only a limited number of them. They only have a certain amount of bandwidth, so they can't cover everything. But if the 20,000 individuals in Arup also put some muscle behind the wheel and told their own stories and the stories that they were aware of, they don't have to try and cover the whole territory of Arup. But if they just cover the things that they're passionate about and keen about, then we can sort of show the world a more multifaceted, perspective of us, a more authentic one, a more transparent one, and ultimately a bigger one, because there will be more marketing going on, if you see what I mean. There'll be more stories available. And I think people are very interested in what individuals think, not just what corporates think.
Yeah, and actually one of the things I do like is that you do give your own opinion on things. And it's, this is what I believe, I think. And I think that really does come across really well. And in terms of, I guess, time investment, how much time do you put into your LinkedIn and what you do around that?
Yeah, so I didn't start this way. I cheated quite a bit. I thought, let's see how we can do this. And to start with, I simply looked at the posts that Arup made as an organisation and cribbed them, copied them, if you like, and reposted the ones that I was interested in. So I was still doing a degree of curation, but it was still the body work was already done for me. Yeah, that was the first step. The second step was to say, actually, we can probably write them up better in terms of what I think. But then I enlisted the help of my assistant, a wonderful Amy Lewis, and she does most of the heavy lifting, right? So every week, at the beginning of the week, we decide on the 3 posts we're going to make that week, and we try and do 3 posts every week.
Yeah.
And then we decide on the topics. We look around. What do we know? What have we heard of? What have we seen that's interesting? What are we going to post on? Then Amy does all the hard work of drafting the posts, and then I just tweak them at the end and put a sort of why I think it's important bit, if you see what I mean.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah. But that's the thing, it's still your words and your views and your points, but obviously Amy knows you that well as well. And I think, but you found a way that works for you, and you're still getting your opinions out in your way. And I think that's the thing. There's always that process that people can put in place, and it's a way of still tapping into Arup centrally, but also it's got your own spin, and your own spin is what really does bring your post to life. So I think that's I always call it that special sauce, but it's not. It's what makes it special.
What I'm trying to say is, if you can find a willing assistant or partnership, and it could have been somebody in the marketing team, just happened to be that Amy's a good writer. Yeah. So I work with her. That it's not that much effort is what I'm trying to get to. I think I would spend 2 hours a week. Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. And in terms of you're spending, say, 2 hours a week, what does that bring to you? What benefits?
I don't know, actually. I don't know directly.
It's metrics. I was going to go, whoa.
No, I'm not very good on the metrics, but it brings people like you who are interested. It brings sideways correspondence. I get quite a lot of LinkedIn messages from people who are interested, who want to know about it more. It brings people who are interested to know more about Arup. It brings people who want to join us. Yeah. So it brings lots of different dimensions. There's no killer answer, I think, is what I'm trying to say. But I think what I'm hoping, and I probably do believe, that if most of Arup were doing similarly, it would increase our impact considerably, I think, in a broad-based way. Yeah.
And it does. I think there's LinkedIn have got research that compared to if you post from your personal page, in terms of engagement, you get 10 times more impact from posting as personally than you would from your company page. And if you multiply that by 20,000 people in Arup, that's just powerful.
Yes, exactly. And I think I've observed that. So I've posted something sometimes, from scratch, and then Arup has reposted it, and normally I will get not as much as 10 times, to be honest, but probably 5 times as many engagements to the personal post as the Arup one. However, the flip side is also the case. Arup has such a big reach or such a large following that our collective corporate posts can sometimes go rampant, if you sort of mean. They can take off.
I mean, and then Arup's content is lovely. It's like, it's really nice. And so it's not one of, just to conclude that, what I'm trying to say, I think it's not one or the
other.
No, it's compounding. Yeah. I always talk about a compounding effect. So it's kind of like your personal profile will help amplify Arup and vice versa. And I think it works in that way. And I just think people aren't necessarily seeing it like that at the moment. It's kind of like, oh no, it's over there. But actually, no, if you support this is going to go way, way better. I think it's just that thing. But I guess in terms of like senior level buy-in, because I mean, it's actually getting people on LinkedIn is something I do get a lot of pushback about. Are there any tips for senior level people who aren't sure about LinkedIn, or how even people like myself could convince senior leaders this is worth investing in?
Okay, so it's one thing we've tried at Arup, successful or otherwise, and I think they've changed their name. They were called Bamboo from Sprout. But anyway, there's a system by which we make it easy for people to repost things from Arup. So all you have to do is you get a list every week and you just click on the ones that you want to post, and that's it. It happens, if you see what I mean.
Yeah.
But that's not necessarily personalized. So the next step is you can take that piece and you can add a personal commentary to it and add it, or you can post from scratch, But I think to begin with, it's great to be spoon-fed almost. I said that's what happened to me. It's start by, just reposting. Actually start by commenting and liking other people's stuff. To be honest, that gets you a long way ahead. You
do that a lot as well, because
just engaging. Yeah. Although I tend to be lazy and tend to just like rather than comment. If you sort of, I only comment occasionally.
I've seen a couple of the comments.
That's time, though. That takes time, you see. Anyway, so it's all a matter of reaching out your time and deciding what is most beneficial, but trying. I think the answer is experimenting. I tend to only do LinkedIn with a little bit of Instagram, for example. I suspect I should do more Instagram and less LinkedIn, but I've sort of got used to a certain pattern. But I don't do Facebook. I don't do Twitter. Others prefer using Twitter. Others, I know some of my colleagues far prefer using Instagram. They're very visual. They're like the photographic thing. None of my colleagues, interesting, Ayo, as far as I know, are TikTok.
Are you sure? It must be. Come on, there's got to be some people from Arup on TikTok.
Oh, there'll be some people from Arup. Sorry, none of my sort of senior colleagues. It's a generational thing, I think, right? So all I'm saying is I think not everybody is good enough to use everything. So we all find our homes, our natural environments, if you like, which is often just historic and traditional and generational.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think I don't think I've seen any senior level people on TikTok. Yeah, but I'll look out for them, and I'll let you know. Actually, I don't do TikTok that much. I think my 8-year-old does it more than I do. So.
There you go, you see?
Because I'm still there going, I'm not pointing, I'm not doing this. It's just like, I don't want to do it. Hi, it's Ayo here, and I just wanted to tell you a bit more about the show. The Built Environment Marketing Show was set up during Lockdown 1 as a way to help firms do better marketing. It was very much about having the conversations that I have with my friends and showing what best practice really is. In terms of me, well, I'm actually a generalist marketeer, so I guess I know lots of things about marketing and how to pull everything together. So I could be talking about, PR, or understanding what to do next strategy-wise, or figuring out how to get in front of the right audience or what messaging you should be using. Those are all things that I'm kind of really skilled in and understand how to do for my clients. I now work for myself, and I set up my own consultancy at Bass Marketing in 2020. And I'm working with a range of engineering and architectural firms and even PropTech firms who really want to, talk the language of their clients and their audiences and do something a bit different in terms of their strategy and content. If what I do sounds of interest to you, do email me at ayo@abbasmarketing.com, and that's AYO, or head to my website, which is www.abbasmarketing.com for more info. There's also a link in the show notes. Bye. I've got a question, which I'm at part of Build Up, which is a marketing communications networking group that I'm in.
Yeah.
And so I sent the committee a question. I said, if you were speaking to Tristram, what would you ask him? So they sent me some questions.
Oh, okay. Go on.
This one's from Isabel. And she said, how is the marketing function important to Arup's present and future success?
That's such a big question, right?
It is.
The simple answer is it's really important, right? The second answer is how is it important? It is about brand. Brand is increasingly important. It's not diminishing. Yeah. It's going up in the world at large. I'm talking about here. The people identify with the brands that they support, and it becomes part of their self-identity. Now, this hasn't yet really taken off, I think, in the built environment industries, design and construction in particular. But I think it will, or it will have a greater, impact. So it is really important, I think, for the future that you have a brand. And it's important that that brand speaks about your values and what you care about and what you're trying to do. And you can't get to that point unless you have consistent, storytelling and messaging that support that. You can't just invent a brand out of nowhere, I don't think. I think people with really big budgets maybe can, but generally you can't. Generally, it has to be what you've been saying and how you've been behaving and what you've been doing for a considerable period of time. No, in our world, at least. Again, maybe in other worlds, you can invent yourself more quickly. And so for me, that's what the marketing department is all about. It's all about presenting the firm in the right way, in a true, authentic and values-driven storytelling fashion to the world around you. Because if heaven help us, you might occasionally make a mistake and things actually go wrong. Your reputation is fundamental. Yeah. And the way to, survive mishaps is to have a really good reputation that can take the dent. Yeah.
And also actually to support your response back, because I think often it's when something goes wrong, it's like, actually, how do you respond? Is that in line with your values? Are you communicating that? Are you being open and transparent? And I think it's that, isn't it? Where you kind of think, okay, not everything's going to go right in what we do, because it can't. And we're all learning. And I think you're absolutely right. It's that whole thing of carrying your brand and making sure that
and I'll add an opposite view of that, if you like, not an opposite, but the contrary view, which is that social media has a bad reputation as well, because you can try and manipulate your audience, you can target your audience, segment them, and give them the messages that they want to hear. This is what the politicians recently perhaps have been doing in some countries. And that's not what I'm talking about. Yeah. But just because social media can be used in that way, it doesn't mean that social media is bad. That you can still try and reach a more general, less targeted audience with more general, open, authentic messaging and help build your brand that way.
So it's being authentic, which I think is really important. I mean, one of the things I do love is that I guess the 20 years Arup has invested in marketing. So I know that you invest in photography and videography and have done, for as long as when I worked there as well. And I think that comes across because it just means that actually how you communicate your brand, you have good assets and you have good design and you've invested in that. I think that translates into we design excellence as well. So yes, it all works very well.
Yeah. Our weakness actually is probably the other way around. We created tons of content and never known what to do with it. We always go about it backwards. We start with an idea, produce the content, and then we think about, well, what's the audience and what's the message? Which is probably not the right way around, but at least it's authentic. Yeah.
But you know what? You have the ideas, because I often think with marketing as well, I'm often like, you don't need a huge budget. You just need a really good idea. I think that through and you can make some really great content. And I think, especially for smaller firms, sometimes you will sit there and you're just like, you're sitting in a gold mine of information and you don't even realize it, from what you do, how you behave, especially digital, because I'm working with quite a few prop tech firms and, their platforms are a gold mine of information about the industry.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And it's just, because I think it's just understanding how to use that information and actually take that out and actually make, add value elsewhere. And people haven't quite connected with that yet. But.
And that sort of goes back to your first question about digital marketing. Digital marketing is like an infinite amplifier. If you've got the right thing to say, you can make it enormously loud through digital marketing. You can get to an incredible audience.
I have a digital question now, because obviously, because chat, I always get it wrong, ChatGPT and AI Is it going to transform what we do?
Well, yes and no. All technological advances, if you like, transform what we do. But transform is a very big word, so I tend not to use it. Right?
Okay.
But they all improve what we do. They make what we do more possible. They make it better. They make our ability to do the right thing improves. Of course, there's also always a downside that the ability to do the wrong thing tends to increase as well. But if you focus on doing the right thing, if you're a perpetual optimist like I am, then it gives you another tool in your tool chest. There's another opportunity here. ChatGPT is a different route through to all the information on the internet.
Yeah.
That's a way of looking at it. It's just, how do you want to use it?
Yeah, and use it for me, I think in marketing terms, especially, it can be a starter for 10. It can give you ideas. It can help you get to where you need to begin. And then we still add value in terms of our own individual thoughts. So I don't think it's a threat.
Absolutely. So, if you think about just going back, and I was thinking about this the other day, the internet only really crossed my path 23 years ago, 1999. I remember sitting down with a group of colleagues at Arup saying, there's this new thing, the World Wide Web. What are we going to use it for? Huh?
Yeah.
That was only 20 years ago. And yet now, can we imagine life without it?
No. And do you know what? I was in Waterloo and I went past IBM's office and they had a quantum computer in the window. I mean, they're beautiful. But that's like the next thing, isn't it? And you're looking at that kind of stuff going, Now
that's much more difficult to get your head around, because
all
computing is definitive. It's bits, ones and noughts. That's all it is. It's either black or white, right? That's the only thing a computer can do, is black or white.
Yeah.
A quantum computer does probability. This is difficult. Okay.
Yeah, I couldn't get around the report that I know Arup Foresight wrote. I was like, I don't understand. I was literally like, I don't quite get this. What is it?
I don't think I do either, by the way.
That's good. Let's leave that there, because I was just like, oh my gosh, I don't understand it. So actually, all right, I'm gonna finish on my final question. So. I know recently you've kind of digitally, there was you had a whole day, didn't you, where you're doing digital webinars online globally. I mean, how have you found that they've worked, and how they've kind of helped your business grow and that part of the business grow?
That's an interesting question, and I think it's changed over the last 3 years. So just a little story, which sort of makes me laugh a little bit, that I went online myself in 2020, right? So the beginning of the pandemic. Yeah. I suddenly saw this opportunity. We can do things from home. We can do things remotely. And I ganged up with Anthony Gormley, the sculptor, and Thomas Heatherwick, architect.
The two unknowns.
Yeah, that's right. A couple of my mates. Yeah.
That's it. Yeah.
And persuaded them to come online with me and talk about how we can change construction into something that people want to watch and want to be participatory in, not something that they, is dirty, noisy, and people hate. Okay. So anyway, we got an audience of 2,500 people globally, and I thought, oh, that's not enough. Right?
you just open your Rolodex. Who else is next?
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, but actually what's happened, the point I'm trying to make is that the audience participation to virtual events has settled back, I think, considerably since then. Over the last year, people have gone back to enjoying physical events, I think, and being there. So the thing that we held recently was around the clock, 5 locations following the sun, where we got our clients in to come and talk to us about what they've enjoyed about working with us in the digital space, with a physical audience and an online audience. So we're trying to, combine the two. And I think, to be honest, the physical audience aspects of it probably worked just as well. But there's the big stinger, if you like, is out of that, you get lots of collateral, you get lots of content. Yeah. All those little snippets of what our clients have said about us and what we've done are both useful internally and also externally for the year to come. And then we intend to hold a similar event next year, and have another go at it, learn from this year and do it again. But it's really this idea of, what we're trying to do is create outcomes for the world around us. And what our clients see as good outcomes is much more important than what we see as good outcomes. So it's getting a view through, getting a view of what we do from the perspective of our clients is the important bit, and then having that on record to be able to use and reuse.
Yeah. And then you've got like a whole bank of content from running that event, haven't you? And then it's just, how do you cut it, use it, share it, isn't it? But I think that what's interesting, is the whole, you're right, it's that in person and the recording it as well. and that hybridness, which is, I think that getting the online right, I don't think anyone's completely got it right yet. No. You just can't, it's not the same. It's
not the same, but I'm not sure you can make it the same. Right? No. Here's my take on this. I think you give people a choice. Come and watch it in person, which is why we did it in 5 different places. So, there's somewhere reasonably close to you. Or watch it online in your time zone. But you're watching it online as opposed to participating online, I think, in those sorts of events. So it's more subtle, if you like. And then you can also then watch the recording later, especially if we cut it up into manageable pieces. Yeah.
Snackable pieces is what I like.
That's it. Yeah.
Make things snackable. Okay, so thank you so much for coming onto the show, Tristram. It's been a really lovely conversation. I did throw in some questions there.
It's been my pleasure, Ayo. Thank you very much for inviting me.
Thanks so much for listening to the Built Environment Marketing Show. Don't forget to check out the show notes, which will have useful links and resources connected to this episode. You can find that on abbasmarketing.com. And of course, if you like the show, please do share it with others on social, as it helps more people to find us. See you soon.